Okay, Mr. Chair, we are live.
All right, thank you. Welcome. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we're in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Innu Cree, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Neil Harden. I'm chairing today's panel. With me are Gail Anderson and Kent Sealing. The assessor today is Jason Brown, and the administrative personnel is Zachary Mohan. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment rule in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we'll limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony. Anyone speaking of the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the board. The board is appointed annually by council and is independent of it in the city administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value reclassification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We'll then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions the applicant may have, then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all the evidence about an application be brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We will be hearing items 1 through 6 and 9 and 10 on our docket today. Mr. Mohan, please affirm the assessor's and applicant's testimony.
Of course, Mr. Chair. Mr. Assessor, please state your full name.
Jason Brown.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. And Mr. Applicant, please state your full name.
Rod Slaughter.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Neufeld, do you intend on contributing at all to this?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I put him in the waiting room. Would you like him back, I imagine?
Well, if he is, yeah,
Okay,
just
yeah.
just answer that single question.
Sorry, Mr. Neufeld, the chair has a question for you.
Okay, Ms. Neufeld, do you intend upon making any contribution to the hearing on 2049 Dugald Road?
I do not.
Okay, thank you for that then. So on 2049 Dugald Road, Mr. Brown, you can proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is file number 24-2993. Roll number is 0900711500. Civic address is 2049 Dugald Road. We're defending a 2025 assessed value of $1,766,000 today. This is an industrial warehouse that consists of one building, built in 1976 with 20-foot wall heights. There is a leasable area of 24,720 feet and a land to plan ratio of 6.46 to 1. Moving on to page 2, there was a sale about 19 years before the reference date at $920,000. Page 3, I have some rent comparables. These range from 12,000 square feet up to 59,458 square feet. The wall heights range from 14 to 24. And the effective year built ranges from 1970 up to 1996. To the right of that, we can see that the net rents range from $5.67 up to $6.50 a square foot. Moving to page 4, I have my income workup for the subject property. Once again, the leasable area at 24,720 square feet. We've used a model rent of $5.56 per square foot. We've applied a vacancy of 1.5%, expenses at 3%, and a shortfall of $4 per square foot. This gives us our net operating income of $129,834. And we've capped that at 7.35. And this yields the assessed value at $1,766,000. Moving to page 5, we have our capitalization rates. I've highlighted the industrial portion. We're using a range from the 20th percentile to the 80th percentile, and that range is 5.35 to 7.3. So we can see that the subject property falls just outside of that 80th percentile. Outside sources to the right of that, which all justify our range. I have a map on page 7 and an aerial view. So this is at Dugald and Plessis. Another aerial view and some street photographs on page 8 and 9. Well, I guess it's showing page 1. I didn't reset the page numbers. Following that, there isn't, they are currently advertising, leasing the excess land at the back, the rear of the subject property for $4,000 a month per acre. There is 1.5 acres, so roughly if they were to lease this out, it would be about $6,000 per month. But that is an active listing. I believe. I have the site plan on page 2. The subject does contain some cooler space, which generally yields a higher rate per square foot. This is used as a food distribution location for the Northwest Company. Following that, we have the income and expense statements. This is a gross lease, semi-gross. And we can see that the NOI is just under $100,000. Based on that evidence, we're asking that the assessment be confirmed, and I'm open to questions. Thank you.
Okay, questions, Mr. Slaughter.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Brown. On page, you mentioned at the very end, your last page indicates the income and expense mailer that the owner had submitted to the city.
That's correct.
And you mentioned that the actual rent in place on that last page is $87.55 per month. That may be eroded slightly by some unrecovered expenses, but that equates to about $4.25 a square foot. Would that not be considered as part of the evidence, or perhaps the primary evidence, as to the market rent of the property, rather than the comparisons that you had looked at?
We went with the model rent on this. The actual rent does seem low. I'm not sure the reasoning behind that, but yeah, we decided to defer to the model.
Okay, the location of the subject property is relatively isolated. It's not within one of the industrial parks. It's kind of at the edge of the city. You'd agree with that?
I would agree with that.
And this is a rigid steel frame construction with minimal office finish, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And the comparisons that you have on page 3, the majority of these comparisons, with the exception, I believe, of 37 Sylvan Way at the end, these would be all considered parts of multi-tenanted warehouses, mostly in industrial parks or commercial areas. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And then 37 Sylvan Way, that is only a 1-year lease from 2021, 1 year and 2 months. It's not in place today, correct?
Correct. But it was in place during the reference period.
Okay, fair enough. And that property is constructed in 1996. It's a much newer property than the subject.
That's correct.
Okay. Lastly, on page, let's see what page this is. It's the land listing that you put in, Mr. Brown. I'm not sure what it's, I think the 4th last page in your evidence. Yeah. Do you know what date this is effective of?
I don't. I apologize.
Okay. Is it possible that this is a relatively new listing that is considered post-reference?
That is possible.
Okay. I think that is all the questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Anderson, any questions?
I have no questions. They've been asked and answered. Thank you
Okay.
for your presentation.
Mr. Seelan?
Have you inspected this property?
I haven't. I have driven by it a number of times, but I've never been inside.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay, there's quite a bit of land here, but the city's not asking for any surplus land. Why would that be?
In hindsight, there probably should be some excess land on this, but I can't answer as to why there isn't.
Okay. All right. So I have no more questions. So Mr. Slaughter, you can give us your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There is some rebuttal evidence as well. I'll go through the direct evidence if you'd like first, and then I
Yeah.
can
We
follow
do
up with this.
direct followed by questions, then rebuttal followed by questions.
Perfect. Thank you. So Mr. Brown had gone through the description of the property. I won't reiterate much of that, but if you could please turn to page 6 and 7. We have photographs, an aerial photograph of the site in totality. It's kind of an L-shaped lot located far down Dugald Road, past the St. Boniface Industrial Park, and a relatively isolated location. It's predominantly gravel. The building itself is a 1970s vintage rigid steel construction, very basic, very Spartan construction with minimal office finish. There is about 10,000 square feet of the area which is cooler, not freezer, but cooler space. And this is used for food distribution. The tenant enjoys access from both off Dugald and off the back alley at the rear of the site. And I should point out that the lease in place does in fact cover the entire site. I'll talk about that listing that was entered in evidence by the city in my rebuttal. But the lease is for the entire site, building and land. On page 12, we talk about the rent in place, Mr. Chairman. This is an arm's length lease between our client, Crescent Foods is the subsidiary of our client, Northwest Properties. They lease the property on a lease they commenced in 2004, but every about 5 years it's renewed, I believe, at market. The last renewal was in 2020, and that was for $4.25 a square foot. We saw that cited in the city's evidence, and there is some erosion from that for certain expenses. That lease, it would have been known at the reference date, would renew effective May 2023 at the exact same rent. $4.25 a foot. The most important thing about this lease, Mr. Chairman, is that it does in fact cover the entire site. And you can see that on the bottom of page 12. The area marked in red, and the tenant has enjoyment and control of the entire site. We have also looked at market rents for the subject. We tried to take into account the location and the age and the size to the best of our ability. The conclusion of our examination of market rents is that the rent in place, in fact, does not seem low to us. I think it makes sense based on the age, the finish, and the location of the subject property. However, we have chosen a slightly higher rent as our market rent at $4.50 a square foot, which both sits within the comfortable range of the comparison shown on page 13, and of course is taking a fair amount of consideration of the actual arm's length lease in place. We have a fair amount of evidence on the vacancy, which Altus or Ryan is very careful to point out does include collection loss over the life of the property, but in this case, we are applying the $3.5% in line with the city. I believe. Let's just confirm that. No, sorry. The city applies 1.5%, and we contest that. We don't believe that that is a realistic vacancy allowance over the life of the property. And based on our examination of vacancy, especially in locations in the east part of the city, and considering that vacancy allowance should consider a component of collection loss, we feel that 3.5% is more appropriate. On page 15, for example, you'll see that the St. Boniface Industrial Park, which would be the closest industrial park to the subject is past that, it's further past. But the St. Boniface Industrial Park sits at a 5.4% vacancy overall in 2022 when looking at multi-tenanted premises. And for investment grade, it sits at 6.6%. So again, a vacancy allowance isn't looking at the vacancy at place at the moment. Of course, this is 100% occupied, but rather it looks at the risk of vacancy over the age life of the property, and seldom do we see vacancy allowances that dip below 3% for industrial. We have no contention with the shortfall rate of $4 a square foot, nor the non-recovered expenses at 3% of effective gross income. On page 18, we have a subset of the capitalization rate study that our firm has conducted. And in conclusion, we don't have contention with the city's 7.35% capitalization rate. So in conclusion, Mr. Chairman, on page 20, the two contentions in blue in our income valuation are the market rent. Again, I don't think we can ignore the actual arm's length lease in place, and we do feel that that is balanced by our examination of comparable or somewhat comparable market rents. And we are slightly higher than actual at 450. And also the vacancy allowance, 1.5% is not sufficient in our mind. We apply 3.5%, no other changes from what the city has submitted, and our indicated value is therefore $1,370,000 rounded. In the appendix, Mr. Chairman, are the income expense mailer that I cited that the city also has in evidence. So that would conclude our direct evidence. Thank you.
Okay, questions, Mr. Brown?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Slaughter, you indicated, did you say the tenant was Crescent Multifoods, or was that the owner?
No, I believe the tenant, our client is Northwest, who is the controlling entity for Crescent Foods.
Okay, but they're not affiliated with the owner?
No, it's completely
Okay.
arm's length. Yeah.
Okay, your page 15 regarding the vacancy.
Mhm.
The subject is located in Transcona, you would agree?
Yeah, it's outside of the St. Boniface Industrial Park. It's just east of, east of that.
But out of all these listings on your chart, Transcona would probably be the most likely location of the subject?
Well, the Transcona industrial area that's cited here by the Johnson report refers to a very specific location where Defer Furniture and Pallister and those companies are located, and they're typically owner occupied. So we don't, or at least 100% occupied for the most part. So we don't really think that's an appropriate measure for an industrial property's vacancy. Rather, we need to look at what would be happening likely in the market over the age life of the property.
So just to be clear, you're not using any one of these single line items for your vacancy allowance? Where did you pull the 3.5 from?
It's basically looking at overall vacancy. I mean, we wouldn't just look at Transcona, which again is mostly owner occupied. We'd look generally in the vicinity and take into consideration that it's not a point in time allowance. It is a subset of the risk of vacancy occurring over the age life of the property. And very seldom do we see the market apply something as low as 3% for an industrial or commercial property. And certainly not 1.5%.
Okay, but just to be clear, the Transcona, the most likely closest location to the subject, was at 1.5 in 2020 and 0 in 2021 and 2022?
Yeah, but to be clear, Mr. Brown, I mean, Transcona is the general area located in. The Transcona Industrial Park is a very specific area that is mostly owner occupied.
Okay. Do you know what vacancies you used in your cap rate workups?
We usually use market. So if we will do the exact same analysis or same rationale and methodology, and we'll apply a market vacancy. So if it's owner occupied, we'll apply Actually, I'm not gonna, let me take one moment and I'll actually go to my study.
I believe there was some 1.5s in your study.
Okay, I will confirm that. One moment. And I don't believe we have it in evidence, so I have to go back to the source document, which might take a moment. Yeah, I have the workups here, Mr. Brown, for the cap rates that we summarize in our evidence. We have 4.5% on 1 Warman Road. That is an owner-occupied property, or that was it was vacant at the time of sale, 4.5%. Taking forever to scroll. We have 2% applied to 1500 Wall. You're correct, it's less than 3%. We have 2% applied to 680 Mission. And 205 Hutchings. So you are correct, we applied less than 3%, not 1.5 though.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Okay, questions, Mr. Seelon?
No questions, Mr. Chair. My questions have been asked and answered. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Anderson?
Same for me, no questions. Thank you for your presentation.
Okay, now rebuttal, Mr. Slaughter. Is it verbal rebuttal or is there a document for us to look at?
There is a document, Mr. Chairman. I think it was submitted. Is that available for board's reference?
I'm sending it to the assessor now. The panel should have it in the SharePoint. It'll be under item 1. It'll be labeled as the rebuttal.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
I'll give the panel a moment to refer to that in the assessor.
Okay, I have it.
Okay. So the primary concern, Mr. Chairman, with the valuation is that the actual rent in place is not being given any consideration, and that is an arm's length lease. When I was doing my research for this property, I saw something that I've never seen before, and that is the exact listing that Mr. Brown put in evidence. So what I've included here is the correspondence with the client, the tenant, regarding that listing. And maybe I'll work backwards in the correspondence. So if I could ask you to start at page 4 at the bottom.
Page 4. Okay.
So I'm confirming that the tenant,
And I
our
don't
client,
document, sorry, Mr.
sorry.
Al. You just give me a quick second.
Sure.
Apologize, Mr. Chair. I don't have the document. I'm just reloading here. Thank you.
Yeah, if you refresh the SharePoint for today, it will be there.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Sorry, Mr. Applicant.
Thank you. So step one was I was confirming with our client that in fact they are responsible for the entire property. And they've included here at the top of page 4, the excerpt that I included in the direct evidence where it states that yes, they are responsible for the lands and the building. And the lands she mentioned outlined in red, that's in her direct evidence. It includes the entire L-shaped parcel. And then as we go up on page 3, this is going backwards in time. I say on January 11th, I email and say, hi, Sherilyn, I also found a listing for 1.5 acres of the land to the north side. The language in the listing appears to indicate that the landlord is offering the lease to and potential to build. Is this not on land you lease? Would your lease be amended? And she responds on January 13th, hi, Rod, I'm waiting for the CMF manager to let me know regarding any major improvements. As for the listing, this is very interesting. So this is new. I mean, I think it's actually post-reference, but it's now in evidence. So, and I was actually investigating it anyway, because this is important for our valuation. No amendment to the lease, and we have a lease in place until 2028. We reached to the owner recently to secure early renewal. They said they are not interested and wanted to wait until we are closer to the end of term to understand the market rates. So this is corroborating what I mentioned earlier, that they took occupancy in 2004, and every 5 years approximately, they renew at market with the owner. So this is an arm's length recent lease that they have in place at 425. We have no further renewal remaining at this property. I can only locate the listing you have shared online, and this does have, it does not have any dates to build. The current lease since 2004 that NWC have the right to expand either the existing building or build another building on the attached cross-hatched area where they are trying to lease. So the tenant is saying, we have control of this in our lease. So they're confused about how this listing could be in place currently. I need to escalate the listing with our VP. This does not make sense to me why they have a listing on our lease premise without our consent. I followed up on January 28th. Hi, Sherilyn, any further word on that land listing? And she responded that day, hi, Rod, I can confirm the listing is active, and the listing does form part of the current lease. This was brought to NWC attention when Jan Bering, her predecessor last year, was still with the company. Should any progress come from the listing, we will discuss with the landlord owner and adjust the lease accordingly if and once agreed upon. We have a lease in place until May 2028 and no amendments from our current lease agreement regarding the lease premise, land and building square footage. Let me know if you have any other questions. So what this is, I hope, indicating, Mr. Chairman, for the panel is that this is a surprise, and it's probably a proactive measure by the owner, anticipating that should Crescent Foods under Northwest Company not renew their lease, they are then investigating potential for leasing a separate part of the land. But at this time, under this lease, which is arm's length, the tenant has control of the entire site. And should the owner wish to pursue this, it would require an amendment, which would likely be a downward adjustment to the lease in place. I hope this showcases that this is in fact an arm's length lease that we cannot ignore, and it does in fact include all the land. That's all the rebuttal. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Brown, any questions on the rebuttal?
I have no questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Ms. Anderson.
I have no questions. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Seelan.
No questions, thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there any summation either party wishes to do?
I'm okay, thank you.
Mr. Slaughter?
I thank Mr. Brown for pointing out our inconsistency on the cap rate study. We need to address that. But otherwise, Mr. Chairman, I think this is pretty clear. This is an arm's length recent lease that cannot be ignored. It is the best indicator of market. It does include all the land, and I ask the board to give that serious consideration.
All right, thank you very much. Then we shall move on to our next property, which is 2141 Logan.
Mr. Chair, wouldn't that be item 2?
Let me see. Where's my docket? Well, item 2 is this same property. It's just the owner on this instance, and Mr. Neufeld has indicated he's not presenting on this property.
Perhaps can we take a recess just for clarification?
Okay. All right, we'll recess then.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Chair, we are live again.
Okay, thank you. Welcome back. We'll move on to our next property, which is 2141 Logan Avenue. So Mr. Brown, you can begin on 2141 Logan.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I just need to affirm the applicant for this.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Okay.
Mr. Applicant, please state your full name.
Rocky Neufeld?
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Brown on 2141 Logan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this file number 24-4001, roll number 0709259700. Civic address is located at 2141 Logan Avenue. We have a 2025 assessed value of $1,239,000 today. Once again, this is an industrial warehouse consisting of one building, built in 1979 with 24-foot wall heights. We have a leasable area of 18,756 square feet and a land to plan ratio of 6.13. Have some rent comparables on page 3. These range from 10,600 square feet up to 24,181. We have wall heights ranging from 14 to 24 and effective years built ranging from 1965 to 1987. To the right of that, we can see the net rents for the comparable properties, and these range from $5 a square foot to $6.25 a square foot. Moving to page 4, we have the income workup for the subject property. Once again, we have the leasable area at 18,756, and we've used a rent per square foot of $4.70. We've applied a 3.5% vacancy, 3% expenses, and $4 per square foot shortfall. And we've capitalized that NOI at 6.45, and this generates the income value of $1,239,000. To the right, or on the next page, I have the capitalization rates. Once again, I've highlighted the industrial portion using a range from the 20th to 80th percentile of 5.35 to 7.3. So this falls right in between those. And to the right of that, we have the outside sources, which confirm our range. Page 7, I have a map view. This is located near the airport, north of the airport by Brookside Cemetery, over by Red River College, on the corner of Logan and Ryan Street. Some aerial photographs on page 8. So this was once used as an industrial metals, I believe, recycling place. It's now being used as a base of operations for a snow clearing company. I have some exterior view shots on page 9 and 10. Picture of the rear of the building on page 11, and then some interior shots on page 11 and 12. Page 13 has a quick property overview at the top, taken from online, showing some of the attributes of the property. And below that, we have the income and expense statement showing $10,000 per month. And that indicates it is a net lease. And I believe that works out to about $7 a square foot. Page 14 on the back confirms that it is a triple net lease. That's written by the owner. So based on that evidence, we ask that the assessment be confirmed at $1,239,000, and I'm open for questions. Thank you.
Okay, questions, Mr. Neufeld? You're muted. There you go.
No, I know. I got 3 screens and I had to try to find it. Okay. We have had a discussion on this, and so there are some points of contention have been resolved, I believe. I was just going to focus on the capitalization rate on this particular building, and then when I get my turn, I'll explain why. But now, have you? I understand that you have attempted to look for a listing on the environmental database on this property, and were unable to find one.
That's correct.
Okay, and you mentioned the Ryan products, which is the I guess they do lumber cutting surrounding the property, right? They own the property immediately north, the L-shaped one that sort of surrounds the site.
Just looking at my aerial view here to the left of it on page 7.
Yeah, on page 7, you cut it out. I'm just trying to see if there's a better picture here. I thought I saw one. Ryan has the property immediately west and north, and their property runs to the rail tracks behind it, as well as having the property across Ryan Street. And the property, actually all of the property on the east side of Ryan Street. I'm just wondering if you were familiar with that, or you were just or not. Because my question is, did you research the parent parcel that this was cut out of?
I did not.
Okay, I think I found out that's probably the reason why you couldn't find it. In terms of your preparation here on page 4, was this all done by the model?
That's correct.
And it indicates storage warehouse. That was the category under which it was the model had determined the values.
That's correct.
And of course, you did state today it is not a storage warehouse now, nor was it prior to the current tenant. Is that correct?
I know it's being used as a base of operations for a snow clearing company. What they're doing inside the building, I'm not aware of.
Okay. And then, but prior to the snow clearing company, it was a scrap metal dealer. And do you consider that as warehouse, or is that another use?
I assume we would consider that a warehouse, as long as you're storing something in the building. I mean, it wouldn't be a distribution warehouse. I don't think it'd be manufacturing. It is zoned manufacturing, but they're not actually manufacturing anything.
Right, and you had some pictures that were taken on pages 9, 10, 11. I take it you didn't do these pictures?
That's correct. The rear portion of the building does look like it's utilitarian, not high finish. But the offices look decent from what I can gather.
Right. And do you know the date of these pictures?
I don't. I apologize.
Okay. Because I'm looking at the pictures on page 11, and I believe I was there with another assessor when he took these pictures. Do you have any notes on the building condition at the time? Because I'm looking at the pictures, and you'll see that I guess we'll call it the pointing, the grouting, on the masonry appears to be coming off in several areas.
Yeah, that's possible. I mean, if it was being used as industrial metals, it was probably rough on the building.
Yes. No more questions. Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Seelan, any questions?
I just have a quick question. There seems to be a difference in the actual leasable area between yourself and the applicant of, I think about 500 square feet. Do we know why there'd be a difference that you would have 18,756 and they would note 18,216?
Where did they know? So we have 18,756. It looks like at the bottom of page 13, they are showing 18,756 as well.
I noticed in the
Just wondering where you were pulling that square footage from?
the applicant's brief.
Oh, the applicant's brief. No, I don't know what the difference is there.
Understood.
But it
Uh,
looks like the income and expense statement does verify our leasable area at the bottom of page 13.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate the
Thank
clarification.
you.
Thank you. That's all.
Okay. Thank you for that, Mr. Sulin. That was going to be one of my questions too. Ms. Anderson, question.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Newfield, you can begin your presentation then.
Thank you. I'll start with the area discrepancy, and what this was is that if you'll notice in the assessor's picture, there's a canopy. For some reason, the canopy is included in the rentable area on the assessment workup, and we ended up getting our source information. Oh, sorry, as well that there was some upper mezzanine space that was indicated. The plan area is 18,216 of the building, and that's what we're using because in real estate, you don't count mezzanines in industrial buildings, especially rough ones, because it's not separately leasable. It takes away from storage space. And if our brokers advertised a property for rent, I was listening, you were talking about a listing being a point of evidence here. Well, our brokers aren't allowed to quote mezzanine space as rentable because it violates standard. So we're just sticking with our standard, and as well, the information presented by the owner on page 10, sorry, the assessor's brief, page 13, 14, and 13 and 14 is completely it's they've got different numbers as well. One place they put 18,756, one place they put 19,000. On rent they say 10,000 in one page, and the other page they put 10,000 a month. I've known the people for a long time, and they do a very good job at what they do, which is scrap metal. They're certainly not appraisers or accountants. One of these things we try to caution our clients is when you fill out a form, don't pretend you're somebody you're not. You're good at your business. I'm good at my business. But this is this is an inaccuracy from an honest inaccuracy on it. Now, the building's life was. The building started its life as, I guess, just a heated building with the bays, as the pictures indicate. Good representation is on page 11 with the bays, and so this is more of a machine shed than a warehouse, because of the way the bays are set up. There's lots of them, and on Logan, but I think it was maybe 19 when I first time I was ever out there, which is 2003, it was fully in use for scrap. This was the company owns, the family has 4 sites for scrap for recycling in the city of Winnipeg, and each of them deals with a different type of property. This one was predominantly batteries and refrigeration-based equipment. The environmental registration, which I believe what we've quoted in here is the block of land that included Ryan Forest products on our page page 2, page 3 was what our research indicated was the covering one for them. Now, I'm a practicing appraiser, and I did not write this valuation, because if I were to write it, I would have to do a 300-page novel on this under my standards. I'm here in what we call our consulting standard, which was to present to you information that our office has prepared. One of the things in my business we have to be careful of is that we don't talk about things that we're not experts in. I am not an expert in environmental matters, but I am an expert in the value evaluation of environmentally impacted properties. It's what I do for a living. I'm this weekend, I'm traveling across the country to another site for this express purpose. This is my specialty. Now, there are times when you need an engineer to verify contamination. There are times when it's obvious, and this one's obvious. I was joking the other day, how do you know a service station is contaminated? Because it was a service station. They sold gas. How do you know a scrap metal yard is contaminated? They did scrap metal. I was out there. There's batteries on the ground. Now, that doesn't mean it's necessarily contaminated. What it means, and this goes to the concept of how does it affect value, buy it, sell it, go to get a mortgage, the bank will immediately ask for a phase one on this, merely because of its location. The phase one is a file search. It'll indicate it was used for scrap metal. It will indicate likely maybe from aerial photography of the stuff stored on the ground. Then they would have to turn around for their banking and order a phase two, which is drilling and testing. Now, all of these mean that when a bank looks at it for a mortgage, they will offer lower ratios, higher interest rates, and shorter amortization periods. And as a result, your equity has to work harder and your cap rate drives up. That's what I'm an expert in. And I'm not saying that to boast or anything, but this is my business. It's like telling a doctor he doesn't know how to figure out what tonsillitis is. He does because he was trained for it. I'm trained for this. So what you're generally going to see on environmental situations is roughly anywhere between 1.5 to 2.5% on the cap rate being higher because of these issues. It's the lack of ability to use borrowed money on an investment property, and that's what this is all about. In the old days, we had a couple of practitioners in this business who kept using the word stigma, 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 and it was kind of funny, but I did it myself 20 years ago, but we have lots and lots of cases law from the municipal board. They generally said, we recognize environmental issues, and they changed the cap rate by 2 percentage points. That I haven't brought any of those forward, but that's essentially what we're looking at here, is that you have to look at it as at a higher capitalization rate because of its usage. And there's one other factor in it on the capitalization side, is the heat has been turned off for 20 years. It was reconnected, and I was just looking at permits. It appears there was a permit in 2017 called plumbing repair, and that would be the permit for reinstalling gas lines, because that falls under mechanical. They had gas space heaters that had been disconnected, and for the current user, I now see that they did reconnect the lines. Now, I was asking the assessor questions about the brick, because when I was in there, it was quite obvious what was happening to the building. Again, not going to say I'm an environmental or building expert, but when something slaps you in the face, it's easy to figure out what went wrong here. The underside of the roof, the deck, was corroded, and the brick pointing, the plaster, the mortar was coming out in many places. What happens in unheated buildings is, on a day when the temperature is within a few degrees of freezing, in the daytime, the temperature goes above freezing. There's more humidity in the air. At night, it cools down. The condensation rests on the building and freezes and busts up the mortar. And we've seen it in a lot. I've seen it in a lot of buildings, and this one is blatantly obvious that this had occurred. So on a remaining economic life or structural repair, there is a risk level. And I've mentioned permits. There have been no repair permits on this taken out, and I haven't had a chance to inspect it since it was reconnected. But mold doesn't go away unless you make it go away. And I can tell you I've had a lot of personal experience with some problems on it. And like I said, so the whatever cap rate would normally be applied to a property like this on the simplistic methodology, there's a almost a very, very consistent application of 2 percentage points higher for these conditions. And we now the person who did this report used 8.5%. They were not trained in these matters, and I don't. We've bargained with the assessor in very good faith here, so we're not. I think that the cap rate, myself personally, I would be pushing the tens on this because of these two major issues. But we're not going to change it because we were bargaining in good faith. One of the things we did mention to the assessor is, I know that the income and expense form is flawed, inconsistent. We have just informed him that we're willing to accept the assessment department's NOI on that basis. So we would change our NOI to 79890. And I mentioned that I think cap should be much higher myself, but I haven't done an appraisal. You're presented with 8.5. And we didn't change it, so we have to use 8.5%. Sorry, I don't know what I did here. 79890 divided by 0.085 is revised value is 939,882, rounds to 940,000. So that actually represents some increase from the previous years, and that's an indication it's now heated and can command a higher rental rate. But like I said, mold doesn't go away. Ground contamination doesn't go away. Those are the risks that it has to look forward to. Thank you. That's my presentation.
Okay, questions, Mr. Brown?
I have no questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Anderson?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Mr. Seelan?
Yes, when did you last inspect this property?
I don't have a record of it. I've been there 5, 6, 7 times, beginning in 2003. Let me see. Okay, well, I was out in, sorry, our files were all updated and changed and everything, so I apologize. Our server migrated to a OneDrive system, so I usually look at the file dates, pictures, and now they're all dated April of 2024, which is when we changed our server. I'm going to say that I was there. I have not been there since the usage changed. That was my last visit. And what was the assessor's, which is date on the lease start on that was February of 2022. So it was before February of 2022. I have a bunch of properties in the area, including the Logan Forest, Ryan Forest Products, and the other client down the road that we came to agreement on, and 2 more in Omens. So I'm guessing 2021, between 03 and 2021, about 5 times.
You mentioned that the heat was turned off 20 years ago. When was it turned off? When was it turned back on? Was
I
that
don't know. I don't know when it was turned off. When I showed up in 2003, it was off. And I note they had it turned back on beginning in March of 2022. Um, and I did check my emails on it from the ownership, and they dated. They dated from um, fall of 2022 that I confirmed that it was back on. So that coincides with what the assessor has.
Thank you. That's all my questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Now, is this on the contaminated sites list or is it on the impacted sites list?
Well, they don't. Um, yeah, let me just see the last registration.
Because there's a difference. Contaminated
Yeah.
sites means it's definitely contaminated. Impacted means watch out, it could be.
Okay, yeah, and that was the file change that environment and climate change are doing right now with the change to the electronic version. The old list simply went contaminated / impacted. When they changed to the new style, I think there's only 4 or 5 properties left on the contaminated list, and the rest have moved to the impacted list. I don't know, and like I said, for evaluation purposes, nobody cares. It's sort of like you've been branded contaminated, and it's a problem.
Okay. All right, I've got no more
I think
questions.
maybe only three left uncontaminated now.
Okay. So we'll take a break until, let's make it 10:20 and then come back at 10:20 and do 2201 Logan. So we'll take that break until 10:20. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Welcome back. Our next property on the agenda is 2201 Logan. So, Mr. Brown, you can begin with that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just
I know.
pulling the file up.
Yeah, I noticed we don't have any brief from either party on this one.
Yeah, I apologize for that. We were going to do a 15-1, but we just ran out of time. So this is filed number 24-4039. Roll number is 075691364415. Civic address is at 2201 Logan Avenue. The current 2025 assessed value is $2,049,000. We have a recommendation today to reduce that to $1,840,000.
Okay, can you give us the parameters for that?
It was negotiated as a bottom line, just the final value. My workup would indicate just a revised NOI.
Revised NOI. Okay, what is your NOI then?
I'd have to just work that up quickly. I don't have it in front of me.
Okay.
$103,040.
Okay, and Mr. Neufeld, how do you feel about the verbal recommendation?
Yeah, I think it's pretty fair. It's a very different sort of property, very difficult to deal with. I don't think this one fits in the model whatsoever. But we work the numbers ourselves, and I think that we've reached a fair conclusion.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to 44 Omens Creek Boulevard.
Mr. Chair, could I get the final value of the recommendation value, please?
The final value,
Yes,
$1,840,000.
thank you, appreciate it.
Okay. So, Mr. Brown on 44 Omens Creek Boulevard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is file number 24-4409, roll number 13095420000. Civic address is located at 44 Omens Creek Boulevard. We have a 2025 assessed value of $2,150,000 today. Once again, this is an industrial warehouse with one building on the property, built in 1981 with 19-foot wall heights. Zoning is M2 manufacturing. Land area is just below 80,000 square feet. Leasable area is 18,013 square feet and a land plan ratio of 4.9 to 1. We have on page 2, 23 years before the reference date, there was a sale for $650,000. And then we have the subject property lease starting in August 31st, 2000, sorry. And that was at $7. So that's way before the reference date. It is a 24-year lease, though. So it's probably just coming to an end, or just did come to an end. Page 3, I have some rental comparables. These range from 11,888 square feet all the way up to 24,000 square feet. Wall heights range from 14 to 26, and effective year built ranges from 1964 to 1981. To the right of that, we can see the net rents for the comparable properties, and these range from $6.75 all the way up to $7.50. Page 4 shows the income workup for the subject property. Once again, this is a storage warehouse. I didn't calculate the average rent for this one. I can do that quickly.
Yeah, 672.
672. Perfect. Thank you. So we've used 672 as an average rent. That gives us our potential gross income of 129.79. We've reduced that by 3.5% vacancy, 3% expenses, and $4 per square foot shortfall. This generates the NOI at 110,721. And we've capitalized that at 5.15%. This generates or yields the value of 2.150 rounded. To the right of that, or on page 5, we have the capitalization rates. I've highlighted the industrial section. We're using a range from 20th percentile to 80th percentile, 5.35 to 7.3. So this falls just below the 20th percentile. The outside sources located to the right of that justify our range. Page 7 shows the map view. This is just north of Brookside Cemetery, similar to the previous property or the one before that, north of the airport. Aerial view below that does show that there is loading bays on both sides of the building. Same with page 8. Street view shots on bottom of page 8 and the top of page 9, showing the front and rear of the building. This is ASL Distributors, so this is being used as a distribution warehouse. Interior photographs on page 9 and 10. And then the architectural plan on page 11. This does show the mezzanine, which we do have a rent attributed to it. It looks like there is offices and potentially even a washroom on the mezzanine. Income and expense statements provided by the owner on the following page. I'll note they are showing a net loss for the year, I believe, year to date. Oh no, 40,000. But if you look up, there is $70,000 cash to owner. There's mortgage interest, which would of course all come out of the calculation. rental roll on the following page, the last page of my evidence, showing the net rent at $7.50 per square foot. And of course, no vacancy as it's single tenant. Based on that, we ask that the assessment be confirmed at $2,150,000, and I am open for questions. Thank you.
Okay, questions, Mr. Neufeld?
Yes, sorry, I'm just catching up here. We've had an opportunity to discuss this as well, and we have a little bit more common ground, so we'll be brief. The page 4, this was all done by the model, is that correct?
That's correct.
And the potential income, 120,979. I'm just looking at reading the statements that you referred to, and I don't disagree with your comments. I'm just going to the bottom line, and I'm looking page 12, as full. NOI 40,000, add the cash donor back in, that's 110,000. Add mortgage interest back in, it's about 117,000. So their potential is actually $3,000 less than your potential. Do you? I by the way, I'm not going to, and nothing turns on this. I just wanted to compare it, make sure that everybody got the same read on it. Do you see it that way as well?
I feel like we're $3,000 less than the actual. Correct?
Okay.
113 versus 110.
I'm looking at your number of 129.79 before allowances.
Oh, okay. I was looking at the NOI because
Yeah,
that's what we were calculating.
No, I didn't see a vacancy. It's a single tenant, so I didn't see a vacancy loss in this. I see some shortfalls on. No, I don't. Vacancy loss, actual. No, nothing's listed here. Sorry, why I'm asking this is we're not intending on challenging the NOI on it. I just want to make sure that it's clear that the actual is $1,000 or $3,000 less potential than you've stated.
Yeah, it looks like the model was pretty bang on.
Well, if you say 3% is $3,000 is bang on. I'm cheaper than that. Okay. The cap rate of 5.15, that is below your 80th percent or 20th percentile, correct?
That's correct.
Now, does the city discern between industrial A and industrial B in your parameters?
We don't.
Okay. So when you're looking at what the market participants have reported, did you check their definitions?
I'm aware of them.
Okay, so now I'm looking at the B line because this is a B. Now the Colliers one, were you aware? Did you receive a communication that Collier sent to your office about reliance on this number and the retraction on the quarter one?
I haven't seen that communication. I have seen the definitions. I don't have them in front of me though.
Okay, that's fine. So CBRE B's is their range is 6.5 to 7.5, and Cushman is 6 to 6.75. Then these are both significantly higher than the model is indicated. Correct? Like when I say significant, it's like 20%, right?
Yeah, it would appear so.
Okay. I think that's all I wanted to ask you. No further questions. Thanks.
Okay, Ms. Anderson, any questions?
Yes, thank you. So this valuation is all model driven?
That's correct.
Okay, and have you inspected the property at all?
I have not inspected this property.
Okay, so the cap rate of being below the 20th percentile, 5.15, that's a lot lower than what we've seen today with other properties. And so can you explain what you would attribute that to?
Yes, so this one is newer than the previous properties at 1981, not significantly, but it is. It is masonry bearing walls. It's a bit smaller. The smaller properties tend to have lower cap rates. They're just more accessible in the market than the bigger properties, so they generate more activity. Yeah, it's the same model that generated that NOI that is used to generate the cap rates too. So we can assume that if the model was close to the actuals on the actual performance, that if we're applying that same model to the sales, it should be pretty close.
Okay, thank you very much for your
Thank you.
presentation. That's all my questions.
Hey, Mr. Seelan.
My questions have been asked and answered. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Mr. Neufeld, you can proceed with your presentation then.
Thank you. We did not have access to the statement at time of our publication. We were actually relying on the former tenancy in it, which was a recycling facility. Now, mind you, it was a non-contaminated recycling facility. It was more of a sorting station for the recyclables that are generally considered clean. And as a result, I think after looking at the assessor's evidence, I think that they have more accurately defined the NOI than we did. And we would only differ from them by about $3,000. We wouldn't come to a hearing for $3,000 difference in NOI, that's for sure. As a result, we'd like to accept the NOI of 110,721 and then reflect only on the capitalization rate. Refer you firstly to page page 38. And so what this is in reference to is the assessor is quoting Colliers, make it clear, without our permission, without our consent, using something that is not really meant for them. But if you're going to use it, you have to get it right. We discovered that there was a flaw in it. What had actually happened is that the person who was doing this cap rate study did not make one for Q1 2023, so they pasted in from a different year, whoever ended up printing it. We discovered the flaw. Our vice president of valuation of Colliers International, Canada's one, wrote a letter and reminded you of the assessor of the usage of the reports. You have to do your own due diligence, but that Q1 was not reliable, and we are now going to Q4 2022, which had been changed for it, and the range is 6.5 to 7.5, and you'll note that that also is the same number that CBRE's report uses as well. And Cushman's report, every real estate company in the city has a different focus on their work, and most of their work this year, because I've done some for Cushman, has been in the Canada Way Centerport region with the new construction, and more of Colliers has been in the established areas in the city of Winnipeg, not in Rosser. So the A and the B, of course, this is not an A. An A would be I'm trying to see, I had a couple of pictures just to demonstrate. Page 49, bottom of 49, that's an A, that's Flux Warehouse. Use it as an office, a restaurant, industrial, 27 foot clear, 32 to the outside deck, stack 5 pallets in it in bay sizes. This is more of a B because of the smaller size and a lot of locational deficiency with Centerport coming on, the easy on off. This is on Omens, and you have to drive to it through Logan. And I don't know if anybody's driven down Logan lately. It's a cattle path, but you know, the users it still has some value to it. So our cap rate, which we provided in the report, is my opinion a bit on the a negative side, because I don't really see a major problem with it. I would simply say that if you viewed this in context of Collier's cap rate report, which, I interject, is almost 100% based on warehousing, not specialty properties, not manufacturing, not servicing or snowplow clearing, snow clearing storage. It's mostly all warehousing, because that's all investors want to buy. I would put this in the middle at 7%. And using the assessor's NOI, that produces a value of 1,581,729 rounded, 1,582,000. As a double check on that, in our break, I conferred with a few of our brokers about sales rates per square foot, just as a double check on this, and this falls firmly in that range for warehousing that was bought and sold in that time period, because a lot of the deals were not for investment purposes, and not a lot of cap rate deals. Sometimes, so in this case, I thought it'd be fair to look at the user sales as well, and at the number we're indicating, it's pretty close to $100 a foot, and that's was the market at the time. So it's 1,582, assessor's NOI, cap of 7. And just my last little aside, because I'm not arguing on anything else, on this cap rate study, as a result of this error, the person doing the report is no longer doing it. And if the assessor chooses to download the current report, they'll find some interesting names on it. My daughter, who's an ACI, is in charge of the report, and this brilliant copy describing the market, I'm glad to take credit for it. Thank you very much.
Okay. Questions, Mr. Brown?
I have no questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Seelan?
No questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Anderson?
I have no questions. Thanks for the presentation.
All right, let's move to the warehouse district, 250 McDermott. And there's classification and liability on this one too. Again, we don't have briefs on this one, so Mr. Brown, you can begin your presentation.
I believe I submitted a brief on this.
I thought we did as well. I thought we both did.
Yeah, I did.
On McDermott, we don't have it in our package.
Oh.
I wonder why we don't have it in our package.
One moment, please.
I'm just gonna go check my sent file.
Yeah, I don't have access to the sent. It's someone else's drive.
So we do have the briefs. Yeah, we do have the briefs. They just were not prepped in time for today. I apologize. This hearing was not mine to begin with, but
okay.
yeah, I found them right here. I can send them to the panel.
Yeah, upload them into the system.
For sure. And do each of you have each other's briefs or no?
I have Rockies, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've got it, both.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
That explains why we don't have briefs on a lot of things.
And it was also because we were doing a lot of last minute trying to resolve it. And as with the previous one, I think the one coming up, we had agreed on capitalization, and it's only NOI. So it's shorter hearing.
It's available now in my SharePoint. It's underneath the agenda.
Okay, 24th. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So then, Mr. Brown, I've got it here. Can you read in the basic data, then we'll deal with classification and liability.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is file number 24-3919. Roll number is 13060898500, and the civic address is 250 McDermott Avenue.
Okay. Now, Mr. Newfield on classification and liability then.
Um, yeah, we haven't completed a review of the tenancies, but for the purpose of this hearing, we don't need to pursue that. There's other avenues for it. We can either withdraw it or you can confirm it, whichever is better for you. For
Does
me, I like you to confirm it so I don't have to do any paperwork.
it? Okay. So confirmation requested, class and liability. Okay. So then on value then, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we're defending a 2025 assessed value of $3,486,000 today. This is an industrial warehouse. We have it classified as a loft warehouse due to the age and the number of stories in the location. So this is one building, 4 stories, built in 1898, but we have an effective year of 1905. Wall height is 11 feet. We have a leasable area of 71,854. Page 3, I have some comparables of other loft warehouses. I'll note that most loft warehouses use gross rents, so there was difficulty in finding comparables. So you're going to see a wide range in the net rent. So the leased area ranges from 827 square feet all the way up to 27,640. Wall heights range from 10 to 14. And the effective year built ranges from 1911 up to 1945. And you'll see the wide range in net rents, starting at $4.06 a square foot, all the way up to $16.72 a square foot. Page 2 shows all the different premises. I believe there's 23 for this property. Once again, I have not calculated the average.
599.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
See how quickly I can populate my spreadsheet.
The human calculator. So moving to page 5. Oh, sorry, we have the average net rent of $4.99 or $5.99. This generates the potential rent at $430,647. We reduced that by 15% vacancy, which is standard for loft warehouses, due to the nature in which they operate. We further reduced that by 3% expenses and $4 per square foot of shortfall. This generates the net operating income of $311,956. And we've capitalized that at 8.95%. This generates the value of $3,486,000. Once again, capitalization rates 20th to 80th percentile is 5.35 to 7.3. Obviously, we're significantly higher than the 80th percentile for this property due to the age and the difficulties in running a loft warehouse as an income producing property. I have the map view on page 8. This is located corner of McDermott and Arthur. Exterior shot on page 9 and 10. And then there's some interior shots starting on page 11. There's some office and I believe there's some retail as well. The interior shots continue all the way to page 15. You can see Hilary Druxman has their jewelry store in there. There's, I believe, some hair salons and some office. Page 17 just shows some of the characteristics of the building, taken from online. Page 18 was another aerial shot, and then page 19 shows some of the different configurations of the different floors and the different sizes of some of the premises. Moving forward, we have the income and expense statements as provided by the owner. So moving all the way to, unfortunately, these are not numbered. Near the end, about 4 pages from the end. I'll note the total income for the property is 719,000, close to 720,000. There is some parking revenue located in the revenue that is on a different roll number. So that's about $57,000. I'll note on the following page, the net income is negative $100,000. However, there is a mortgage interest for $370,000 and leasing commissions, which we would not include in our calculations. I believe that's been confirmed at the Muni Board as well for $76,000. So at the end of the day, we're pretty close to the model NOI, which is $311,000, almost $312,000. So we're pretty close to that. Rent roll provided at the end of the income and expense statements. I believe they're all gross rents. But based on that, we're asking that the assessment be confirmed at $3,486,000, and I'm open for questions. Thank you.
Okay, questions, Mr. Neufeld?
Thank you. Not many. So just I'll just make sure it's clear that page 8 is the outline of the building. There's no parking in this property.
Correct. It's on a
And-
separate roll number.
and
They
the-
do own it, but it's on a separate roll number.
Right. Okay. So you made the comment, and you mentioned something which is interesting. You're talking about looking at the model because there were gross leases. How does the model deal with gross buildings like this? Because you wouldn't do it the same way as a net building, would you?
There are some net rents in the market, not a lot. They're not all industrial. Some are office, which this building does contain as well.
Well, what I'm getting at is when you have these old loft warehouses, does the model understand that sometimes they just operate based on whatever money they can make? It's not going to be an investment model where they're chasing vacancies, they're chasing recoveries and that sort of thing. And is it ever considered? You're not in that department, but has anyone ever considered trying to create a model for these loft warehouses on the gross leases?
I am not privy to that information. I know that the way we do it is based on income and expense data that we receive from all the owners in the city.
Okay.
And that's calculated out and then either accepted or not accepted based on how accurate we think it is. And then from there, they use linear regression and modeling to generate rents and cap rates.
Okay, and I was fascinated by page 1, actual year 1898, effective year 1905. Any idea what changed the effective age?
I don't know that.
Would this make any difference in the model whatsoever?
No, it would not.
Okay, because like you're over 100 years old, it doesn't matter how
Yeah.
much older you are.
Exactly.
Okay, those are my questions. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Anderson, questions?
The cap rate of 8.95, so can you explain the factors that would go into the model generating that cap rate?
It's going to be age mostly for that one. Size, the bigger they are, generally the higher the cap rate. And the number of stories. Loft warehouses, in my experience, the ones with elevators do a lot better than the ones without elevators, especially when you're getting into 5, 6, 7 stories. It just opens up the top floor for more uses such as storage and whatnot. But this one would be based on size, age, and location mostly.
Okay, and have you inspected the building?
I have been in the building, into a couple of the units, but not the entire, not a comprehensive
Okay,
inspection.
okay, those are my only questions. Thanks for your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Seelan.
No questions. Mr. Chair, I'm having trouble seeing the documents, and I've refreshed several times, but I'm not seeing the actual documents in the SharePoint.
Oh, okay, they are there.
Yeah, I apologize. Can we take a quick break and I can fix this and sort it out before?
Yeah, it's not under address, it's under 24-3919.
Okay,
And it says AT&T brief and applicant brief.
sure. Let me just go through this again.
You have to update the SharePoint. But it's showing up right after the agenda on mine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate it.
Okay, do you want a moment to look at the applicant brief?
Yes, please. Just a quick moment. Thanks much.
Okay,
So are we going into recess then, or?
I will just take I don't think we need to recess. Let's just pause for a moment or two.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have no questions.
Okay, so Mr. Neufeld, then you can begin your presentations.
Thank you. So the original workup that was done was our office did a read on the statement, and so we're not going to be dealing with the cap rate at all, because I think we agree with it on certain grounds, but it's all based on how you treat the income. As I was mentioning in the questioning, when you have a gross building, the difference, a 100-year-old gross building versus a more modern net building, the differences are fairly fairly strong, and the idea is you're going to run with higher vacancy, you're going to run with gross costs, and you're going to be looking at the end of the day on just that total dollars after all the income has come in and the costs are paid out, and this is how they're done. Now on that basis, the assessor had made some good observations, that it was about 270,000, but of course that included the parking, and you subtract the parking and add back in the parking expense, that comes to 231,000, which is what we've done. So he mentioned commissions of 70,000. And firstly, well, there's 2 points here. One is we didn't put in any allowance for non-recoverables at all. We used the actual. And Mr. Chairman, I'm not putting you on the spot. You mentioned something the last time we met on this. You mentioned the board order on 444. What was interesting about that particular board order is they reinforced the city's model, but then turned around and said in the same breath, however, you do have actual higher costs, so we're going to consider them in this case. So, it is a building by building issue, but and in the way they're built in, but we never claimed for anything in there. So you would have to then back those out or put that out of the income. The other thing, which, and I just noticed this as well, is on, if you take a look on page 3, the actual vacancy for the year in question was 11.1%. And the city's modeling saying 15%. So we're using a better vacancy on it, and that difference is $23,000. So what I'm getting at here is that when I did the math here, and I did this earlier, and we did have some discussion on it. I have a revised NOI on this, and we did two things on this. We took from what you're looking at, 231,000. We added back in the 70,000. Then we subtracted 3%, which is, and then we subtracted the vacancy differential, which is $23,000, and I got an NOI of 264,000. And these are rounded numbers. I'm not going to have hundreds of dollars. And with the assessor's NOI, cap, that's a value of 2,949,721, which was 2,950,000 in value. And this is all working from the statement. I've been involved with this property. I think I first worked on this property in 2003 when it was owned by Allied. Then they sold it to a different group, and then somebody else handled it, and then it got sold to another group, and they're back with us. So we're familiar with this building and the operation. The comment on the cap rate is, and I was thinking about this yesterday in a hearing, is it's not always about age in these older buildings. What it's about is, what is your style? If your style is to try to keep it full, what you do is you modify your rental rates until you can get your tenancy load to where you want. And that's not a bad investment, where you're taking the hit on the income side. And that's where our discrepancy is, because in order to achieve the caps, in order to achieve the control of vacancy, you drop your NOI, and that's what the model doesn't get, that you have to drop your NOI to hit these numbers. Now, alternatively, we could look at it as, a 11-12% cap rate and a potential income, but every property is valued differently. So when an appraiser is going to be looking at this, they're going to be thinking the gross building income model. And they can have more competitive cap rates provided that they're run right. So that's how this one gets would be operated by, is to look at it on those numbers. So 264 is our changed NOI, and we'll accept the assessor's 8.95 cap on the grounds that the incomes is lower, for a value rounded to 2,950,000. And I'm not putting words in anybody's mouths, but we have had good discussions on this. We were just a little bit apart.
Okay. Questions, Mr. Brown?
I have no questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Seelan.
No questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, Miss Anderson.
I have no questions. Thank you very much.
All right. We shall move on then to 600 Moray Street. And again, we don't have any briefs for either remaining property on Moray Street. So I don't know, they're supposed to be, or is it whatever? Mr. Brown, you can proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize. There are no briefs for this file.
Okay.
But I do have a recommendation. I'll just read in the file number and roll number quickly.
And the initial,
Of course.
the initial,
Thank you. So the file number is 24-4213. Roll number is 0708035900. Civic address is 600 Moray Street, and the current 2025 assessed value is $1,474,000.
Okay. Now you got a verbal rec.
Yes, I'd like to make a recommendation to $1,363,000. And that's based off a revised NOI of 83,143.
83,143 NOI.
Correct.
Okay. And Mr. Neufeld, how do you feel about that number?
Yes, we're fine with it. It's our fault that we couldn't process this. I slept in yesterday morning and I was stuck in a hearing from 10 o'clock, my late start time, all the way to 4 o'clock. So
I can send my cats over to your place and get you up at 3 o'clock.
I got a cat and a dog. They don't do any good when you really want to sleep.
Okay. Any questions from the panel on this then?
Just if the numbers can be repeated, the original assessment was 1,474,000,
That's correct.
and the recommendation is,
1,363,000.
and the NOI is 83,143,000,
Correct.
$43, I should say. Thank you.
Okay,
That's all my
Mr.
questions.
Phelan?
And what was the cap rate on that, please?
Guess we can work backwards for that.
We could, yes. I thought he made
It's 6.10.
6.10. Thank you. I appreciate this. All my questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll go on to our,
So just, I know I'm allowed to comment in these parameters. You know that we didn't make the decision based on the city's
yes,
parameters.
we recognize that accepting the recommendation is just the final value and not how we get there.
Yeah, but this is a warehouse, so this is consistent. What I've been telling you all, the boards all along, is warehousing versus other forms of industrial. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, our last property today is 700A Moray Street. Are these in Moray Industrial Park?
Yes.
Okay. So Mr. Brown, we don't have any presentations, but you can begin on this.
I believe I submitted a brief on this.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Chair, that's another overlook on our side. There is a brief that has been uploaded to the SharePoint.
Okay, let's just.
Oops. Sorry, I asked the secretary maybe email me a copy. We never asked for it.
First, I'll have it your way momentarily.
No, we started talking about this one several weeks ago, and we thought we were reaching an agreement, and we never bothered filing evidence.
Okay, it seems to be when I tried to open the AT&T brief, it says this file is empty.
I got the message. I got the same message.
Interesting.
That is very curious. Let me take a look.
Well, let's put that one on the record.
Oh, it's there now.
I'm
I
able
opened it
to.
and it's there.
Okay, there it is. Now I
Fresh
see it.
and clean up.
Okay.
Just to confirm, what is the brief number here, Mr. Chair? Do we know?
243968. It's filed under the appeal number.
Thanks. Just double checking. I have it. Thank you.
Okay, so Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is file number 24-3968. Roll number is 070813100. Civic address is 700A Moray Street. Current 2025 assessed value, $2,379,000. We have a recommendation to reduce that to $2,195,000.
2,195,000. Okay, that's a verbal recommendation then?
Correct.
Okay. I just rather than search through your brief. Okay. And that was based on
Revised NOI of 142,675.
okay. And Mr. Neufeld, how do you feel about that number?
Well, I'm going to accept it, but with some commentary, and not self-serving, but the one of the usage in it is a body shop, and we were having a earlier hearing about environmental contamination. Now, the process of contamination and detrimental situations differs between what's registered in the government and what an appraiser looks at, and the IAAO as well, which is the assessors organization, and the appraisal institute have a fairly lengthy list of what we consider to be environmental contamination, and it's not all just based on the registry. Now, this was a body shop. It's an old body shop. So this is before the downdraft paint booths. This is before the nice clean paint. We have done no investigation on it. It's likely there could be an issue with it for, I'm reading from the list, and previously stored hazardous materials, that sort of thing. Notwithstanding my commentary on it, I just wanted to make sure that we clarify we're not that the concept of environmental contamination is not simply a matter of a registration anymore. And as a matter of fact, the government today, when they register a property, they're all permit based. You take out a tank permit, you get registered. So there are thousands of properties in Manitoba that are not on the list, notwithstanding all that, we accept the recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Anderson, any questions?
I have no questions, thank you.
Mr. Seelan?
No questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, so then we've heard all items on today's agenda, and this hearing is now adjourned. Thank you very much for your presentations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Rocky,
Right.
and thank you, panel members.
Okay, and then we'll take a brief break and we'll come back and do our deliberations.
Have a
Great.
good day, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.